Welcome to the debate. Today, we're diving into the pretty intense world of what our source material calls travel chaos. That feeling, that high-stakes disruption, the genuine drama of missing a flight or realizing you've gotten on the completely wrong bus. And our focus is the language used in those moments, specifically these phrases that are identified as hidden English.
Right. And these terms, they include things from, backtrack to the famous domino effect. And they really sit at this fascinating intersection of pure technical logistics and very real human anxiety.
Absolutely. So the fundamental question we're trying to resolve is this. Does this specialized terminology function mostly as necessary, precise operational language? Stuff that's required for efficient problem solving? Or does it serve mainly as a kind of rhetorical framing that, whether it's intentional or not, exaggerates and heightens the traveler's perception of a crisis? I'm going to argue that this language provides an indispensable technical clarity for resolution.
And I, by contrast, will be arguing that the main effect of even categorizing these terms as hidden English is really to amplify the narrative of failure. It turns what are often routine logistical hiccups into this high-stakes, insider-only drama.
So, my position is pretty clear. The phrases we're talking about, backtrack, layover, domino effect, these are not dramatic flourishes designed to scare people. They're crucial, precise linguistic tools. In the high-velocity environment of travel disruption, where time and accuracy are just critical, any vague communication is basically failure. You need operational language that immediately allows for an actionable resolution, and these terms do that.
I agree that clarity is necessary, but I think you might be confusing precision with exclusivity. The usefulness of a term doesn't automatically make it hidden or some kind of special key.
Well, consider the prime example from the source material, the rescue line scenario. You have a distressed traveler saying, "I think I'm in the wrong place. Can you help me backtrack to the main terminal?" The functional value of backtrack it's just enormous here. It takes a vague, chaotic state, being lost, on the wrong bus, panicking, and it instantly converts it into a universally understood, precise logistical directive, for a navigational reversal. If that traveler had to explain, I need to go back the way I came, maybe 3 stops, and then find the path I missed, you're just wasting precious time. You're introducing ambiguity. Backtrack is operational shorthand. It minimizes the travel chaos precisely because it's functional.
I come at this from a completely different angle. The choice, and I think it is a choice, to classify common operational terms as hidden English reveals a bias toward emphasizing the dramatic scale of travel chaos. Yes, these terms are used operationally. How could they not be? But their practical effect on the traveler who hears them is often rhetorical. They frame what are standard, often foreseeable logistical issues as these exceptional, specialized crises that only, the initiated can understand. It creates a linguistic barrier that elevates the sense of emergency.
But when you're standing there at some unforeseen juncture, you're on a tight schedule, the difference between a minor issue and an exceptional crisis, it often hinges on efficient, precise communication that minimizes any further error.
Clear language is always required, yeah. But let's actually look at the terms. Layover, for instance, is a routine part of booking any multi-stage travel. It's not a secret. Delays are a predictable risk. They're built into the system. And yet, when a multi-stage failure happens, calling it a domino effect instantly uses catastrophic imagery. It emphasizes the uncontrollable, cascading nature of the failure, and that heightens the emotional intensity and the sense of drama far more effectively than some cold technical analysis of the failure sequence would. It's just very effective rhetoric.
But that cascade is the technical reality we're talking about. We're dealing with interconnected, highly complex systems. When a plane lands late at a major hub, the effects aren't isolated. They spread across crew duty cycles, gate assignments, subsequent flight windows.
I'm just not convinced by that, because the language fundamentally matters. If the goal were purely technical resolution, I think less vivid, more neutral terminology would work just fine. This dramatic terminology, I would argue, sensationalizes the experience. that moment of missing a flight or getting on the wrong bus, more than it offers any truly hidden expertise for resolution. You don't call engineering terms hidden unless you want to create a sense of mystery around the system.
Okay, let's focus on that domino effect then, because that really captures the tension here between precision and perception. You're suggesting that using the phrase is an emotionally charged choice.
I absolutely am. Why use the image of collapsing blocks, which implies inevitability and a total loss of control, when a term like delay sequence or, as you said, delay chain might be just as descriptive? Domino effect it's emotionally manipulative. It implies the traveler should just accept the outcome because this disaster was, preordained and systematic. It feeds right into that overarching narrative of travel chaos, where the individual is powerless against the machine.
That's a compelling point about the psychological impact. I'll give you that. But I would argue its technical utility far outweighs any secondary rhetorical effect. Domino effect precisely captures the nonlinear, systemic risk that's inherent in these logistical failures. It distinguishes a standard linear delay where A causes B from a cascading failure, where the failure of A removes the resources needed to prevent the failure of B, which then in turn accelerates the failure of C.
So why can't that be conveyed with terms used in risk management? Something like cascading failure analysis or even multinodal congestion.
Because those terms are abstract. They require specialized knowledge to even decode. Domino effect is a necessary, efficient shorthand. It bridges that gap between a very complex logistical reality and immediate human comprehension. When a traveler is facing a systemic collapse of their entire itinerary, they don't have the time or, frankly, the cognitive bandwidth to process a detailed technical lecture. They need to quickly understand why the whole trip is compromised. That quick, accurate communication is fundamental to starting the resolution process. It's all about speed and accuracy under pressure.
And while I appreciate the argument for efficiency, I still maintain that this efficiency is achieved through emotional intensity. You're injecting a high level of urgency and inevitability that a more technical term like cascading delay might actually mitigate. It might even encourage a calmer response. The perceived urgency is the drama.
Let's pivot to the practical demonstration of this then. The rescue line and the term backtrack. I believe its effectiveness completely undermines the idea that this language is mainly dramatic framing. The sheer effectiveness of a traveler using the phrase, "Can you help me backtrack to the main terminal?" proves its functional value.
Well, backtrack is concise, yes, but I question its classification as hidden English. It's an established verb in common speech. We backtrack in arguments. We backtrack when we miss an exit on the highway. Its utility in navigation is pretty obvious. So does its usefulness inherently justify branding it as specialized insider terminology? The complexity isn't really in the term, it's in the physical reality of being lost in a massive airport. The language simply reflects the operational need to reverse course.
That's a fair reading, but I'd argue its utility is magnified precisely because it operates as a command within a structured network. The moment a service provider hears backtrack, they don't just hear go backward. They understand, initiate the navigational reversal protocol necessary to return to a designated hub. It's an accepted operational input. When your cognitive load is high because you're panicking or stressed, giving a concise high-yield command like backtrack is crucial for efficient human factors management. It resolves the drama by giving immediate direction, minimizing more chaos.
But the classification as hidden suggests the terminology holds some kind of secret key. If a term is widely understood and is simply efficient, the hidden label serves only to elevate the perceived expertise of the provider and the mystery of the system itself.
Intention, and maybe the strongest example of this linguistic framing, the classification of terms that seem totally routine, like layover.
Exactly. I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that layover should be classified as hidden English. Anyone who has ever used a website to book a flight knows what a layover is. Its inclusion in the special category just implies that the entire field of travel operations is inherently opaque and mysterious to the public, which, again, just amplifies the sense of chaos. Why are we treating the commonplace as if it's coded language?
I see why you'd think that, but let me offer a different perspective. It all hinges on context. You're right. When you're booking a vacation 6 months out, layover is just a duration of time and a city name. It's totally routine. But these terms become hidden English, meaning they become specialized and critical operational language when they're deployed by experts to communicate the resolution of unexpected chaos to a distressed traveler.
You'll have to elaborate on how that word transforms based purely on context.
Okay, think about the technical hierarchy that layover represents inside the industry. There's a vital regulatory difference between a connection, which is a short, planned transfer, a stopover, a planned break, often over 24 hours, and a layover. When an agent uses the term layover in a crisis, say after a weather cancellation, they aren't just saying you have to wait. They are immediately communicating critical logistical parameters, specific baggage handling procedures, defined contractual liabilities, and the precise time window you have before the next leg is secured.
But the traveler experiencing this involuntary, unplanned wait is focused only on the loss of control and the delay. They hear the word layover and they associate it with the misery of waiting, not with nuanced regulatory differences. The language, therefore, frames the painful waiting period as a standardized, accepted technical inevitability.
That may be the emotional impact, sure, but the technical communication is still vital. Imagine if an agent had to explain, "We've rerouted you, and pursuant to Schedule B of our air carrier agreement, we are obligated to provide a waiting period that falls within the standard parameters of a controlled, short-duration stop." I mean, that's inefficient and confusing. Using the single, precise term layover limits confusion, it maintains regulatory consistency, and it moves the traveler closer to accepting the resolution. Precision, in this high-stakes context, is a function of legal, technical, and scheduling necessity.
You're making a powerful case for linguistic efficiency in an operational environment, and I do concede the need for clarity for the provider. However, it's the framework itself that I fundamentally disagree with. By labeling operational language hidden English in the context of travel chaos, the source material encourages this rhetorical elevation of the issue. It suggests that specialized vocabulary is needed just to describe a necessary reversal, like backtrack, or a scheduled wait, like layover. This just contributes to the public perception that the logistics of travel are some precarious mystery.
And I would argue the precision of the language is what strips away the unnecessary drama. It replaces the traveler's fear of the unknown with a tangible, workable plan that uses universally agreed upon logistical concepts. The very utility of the rescue line demonstrates that the language is immediately effective for control and resolution, even if the traveler doesn't know the full technical definitions.
And I still maintain that the classification, that rhetorical act of making the ordinary sound extraordinary, is the move that amplifies the crisis. It serves to create a powerful narrative of chaos management rather than just an accurate description of what's happening.
It's clear our perspectives are still pretty distinct here. Viewing the function of language through the lens of operational necessity versus the lens of narrative amplification. I still believe this specialized language is indispensable for clarifying complex travel logistics, for transforming drama into a concrete plan of action. And its efficiency under crisis proves its technical necessity.
And I remain convinced that while the language is certainly functional for the industry, the framework of travel chaos and the classification of these terms as hidden English primarily serves a rhetorical function. It amplifies the perceived crisis and the emotional stakes in travel disruptions, particularly with vivid, catastrophic terms like the domino effect.
Ultimately, I think what we've uncovered is that the language used to describe travel disruption really operates on this incredibly complex dual level. It's simultaneously a highly functional tool for those managing the system and a powerful vessel for the emotional and dramatic narrative for those who are experiencing the disruption.
Yeah, and appreciating both sides of that linguistic coin, understanding when a term is purely technical shorthand and when it's being leveraged for its evocative power, that really deepens our understanding of the material here. There is clearly much more to explore in how language defines rather than just describes the experience of modern travel.